recording on this, on that. So Dan, I'll be able to share it with you and you can make content clips out of that. Okay, now if I want to share remote control, how do I do that? I can't find the share. Actually, Dan, you can share your screen. And I think then you will have remote control to it, sir. So by the way, if you are new to the Job Seeker Hotline show, welcome. I'm Michael Goldberg. And below me, at least the way I'm looking at it, is Anna Morgan, my wonderful co-host. And we've been doing this, I think this is our 8th week, isn't it? Our 9th week or 10th week. We've been going a while, since I think mid-April or late April, I can't remember.
Yeah, it was before.
This is the 10th week.
What?
10th week.
10th week.
Thank you.
All
Aditi.
right. Thank you.
Leave it to Aditi. So, and we have an amazing guest. We all love him. He's the best. And Super Dan. And I would have to say, I've never seen someone so more organized. It scares me. So when you get off, you're going to be scared, but you can do this, right, Dan? Dan, are you there?
You're not going to be scared.
I'm scared because I just love the data that he was sharing with you and I when we were looking at it. So I think it's really cool. So Dan Irvin, the floor is yours. Take it away, sir.
Take it away.
Well, first of all, hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Can you hear me okay?
Hear and see. Okay,
it's just the delay on my end then on what I'm looking at. So perfect. I'm glad that that's all working well. And normally I would jump right into the beginning and the story, but with those few comments, I feel like I need to address them a little bit. I will share with you that when people tell me, like Anna and Michael, they tell me that I might be the most organized person that they know. That's not the first time that I've heard that. And so I totally understand that that's the end of the spectrum that I kind of live at. However, over my corporate career, I know that most people don't operate in that way. And so the way that I hope to explain things and talk through things and actually have trained in a variety of different areas is kind of in this, you can do it. There's this open space for everyone. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today. There's going to be several things that we're going to talk about today. I would ask that you just sit back, relax, enjoy the content, take some notes, pick out pieces that make sense to you, that are applicable to you. Maybe put a star next to things that you're like, you know what, that doesn't really make sense, or I want to learn more about it. And then let's connect later on at some other time. There's several people in this call that I've actually had some one-on-one conversations with, which is what I love doing actually, is getting a little bit more in depth and in detail with people. So if that's something you're interested in, I'll give you some information at the end to be able to do that. So let's jump right in. I want to take us back several months ago for me and tell you a story a little bit about me. At the end of October 2019, so 8 months ago or so, it was the last week of October. It was the Monday before Halloween. And I'd gotten off a phone call with the CEO owner of the organization that I was working with, the same call that we had every Monday for 3 years, 3+ years actually. And working out of my house, I walked out of my office after that call. I went up to my wife and I said, you know what? I think I'm getting fired this week. And she says, what? She goes, what are you talking about? You've done all these amazing things there. You've helped them transform the organization. You put all these things in place. And as much as she's an incredible cheerleader for me, and she was right, I still had that feeling. What actually ended up happening just 3 days later on Halloween, I get an accidental email from HR.
No way.
That was sent to me instead of the owner, that said, oh, here's all of Dan's exit paperwork.
Oh dear.
Holy moly.
So my concerns and fears were realized real quickly. And I had time to process. You know, when I look back at it now, It was designed to be a complete surprise to me. And what ended up happening is that I got noticed about 24 hours in advance. No one in the organization knew that I had received that email for 24 hours. And so that gave me plenty of time to download all the things I wanted to keep. That actually happened. But more importantly, it gave me time to really process what just happened and what was transpiring and kind of where my new headspace was going to transition into. And so that day Friday, I get the phone call. Hey, we realize that you've already got this message. Sorry that it happened this way, but this is our decision. I said, thank you. And we parted ways. That afternoon, I went to the Apple store, bought a laptop because I didn't have one. I was using the company's one, and decided I'm going to pick all this up on Monday and figure out what I'm going to do from there. Well, Monday rolled around and I knew that I had to take action. I knew I had to do something. And the type of person that I wasn't, let's just do it the way that it's always been done. Let me find all these new tips and tricks and new ways of doing things. And I just want to figure it all out. Well, I kind of started that morning trying to do that. I tried to go down that path of there's got to be a better way to do this. Got to be a better mousetrap, a better wheel, as it were. And I was just kind of all over the place. And I realized that I wasn't really centered on what was important to me. I didn't really have an idea of what the values were in my life that I knew them in my head, but I hadn't really written them down and thought them through. And I certainly hadn't thought through my priorities. So later that morning, I sat down and I went through all of that. I wrote out the 8 different core values that I have in my life. And I wrote out the priorities. And I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit. So why do I tell you that story? One is that I am in career transition, just like you and just like many of us that are on this call and that will listen to this later. But 2, if you thought that maybe you were alone in that fear and being blindsided and unsure of what to do next, you're not. I certainly have been there as well. And so I believe that success is defined about how we frame the problem. And so I knew what the problem was. But I needed to frame it up and get a clear direction on what I wanted to go to. And most of fixing that starts with having the right mindset. Before we jump into what I talk about often about intentional leadership, I want to share a little bit more about me. And you guys can see my screen, right? I'm sharing.
Yeah.
All right. So let me see if I can progress this here. Okay, a little bit about me. So everything I'm going to talk to you about today is genuine. It's authentic. It's who I am. It's what I use. It's the things that I do. I've actually parsed out when we get to the more tactical doing part of the presentation that you can actually start doing yourself, and different tools that I use. Those are the ones that I use the most. There are other tools, but I decided to pick the ones that I use the most. And even when we start talking about kind of the leadership mindset, that's a process that I go through literally every morning and set myself up for success for the day. I have a master's degree in education with a focus on adult education and training. That's where a lot of this passion for helping others and creating hopefully memorable presentations and things that people can think about and take away. That's where all that energy and excitement comes from. And then as far as my vocation and what I've done in life, I've in the last 20 years, I've been in corporate roles. A little over 12 years of that was in higher education. I worked in all areas of education. My most recent position in that higher education for-profit side of education was as a campus president. I oversaw the entire campus of a university. And then most recently, the story that I told you at the beginning, I was the COO of a 100% remote cybersecurity audit company. You might be wondering, what does higher education and audit have to do with one another? Nothing. Has nothing to do with one another, other than they have people and processes, which is where I kind of lie, and that's my specialty. So that's a little bit about me. To dive a little bit deeper, and this kind of goes into being intentional and having a leadership intentionality behind it, mindset. I have 3 priorities in life and how I rank everything that I do. The first priority for me is self-care. There's a picture of me there wearing the same shirt I'm wearing right now, so you know it's me. sitting next to that supermodel there. You can tell her I said that. But self-care to me is the most critical component, and that's priority number one. And some people hear that and they say, well, how could self-care, how could you focus on yourself before you focus on other people? And I would point to the idea, and I think we all understand this, but we often don't put ourselves in this position. We often say, yeah, I believe I need to take care of myself. I need to put the mask on first, like they tell you on the airplanes, right? Put your mask on before you help other people. I believe that, but my daily actions don't actually live up to that. And so I purposely, intentionally focus on self-care number one. And so these are just a couple areas that I actually have goals in for 2020 in self-care: physical, intellectual, social, and parental. And then priority number two for me is family. And so there's kind of where I met my wife in the late 90s. And over the last decade, we've had 3 kids. My 1-year-old son turns 1 today. And they're actually over at grandma's house swimming. So they're having a good time right now, enjoying that. And so that's priority number 2 for me. And priority number 3 that I don't have outlined here is my vocation or my job. And so when I'm talking to prospective employers, these are conversations that I'm having with them. This is my priorities. And so I've talked to many people about this, and I won't go into great detail, but in those conversations with those organizations, if I start finding that my priorities start getting out of line for what I want them to be, I know immediately that it's not a good fit. And so early on, again, back when I was laid off, this is the process I went through. What do I want my priorities to be? What do I want to communicate to potential employers about what I am all about? And so every interview, every application, every document that I've had to fill out has had a component of explaining what my priorities are. All right, so intentional leadership. So I believe that when we are intentional about who we are, when we're intentional about the way we talk to somebody, when we're intentional about how we show up and how we connect with other people, transformation can happen. And so I'm actually currently working on a keynote speech right now that is about intentional leadership, and the 5 steps, you're getting a bit of a preview to that, are listed here. Today, I'm only going to talk about steps 1 and 3. So if you want the other 5, you're going to have to pay for them. I'm just kidding. I don't know that I'm going to charge anything. I'm just kidding. But so these are the 5 steps that I've outlined and put together a whole training plan behind. Number 1, having the ideal roadmap. We're going to dive into that one here in a little bit. Number 2 is ditching the generic setting, ditching generic and setting the smartest goals. And so if any of you follow me on social media, I've rolled out my smartest framework over the last 5 to 6 weeks. And that's just taking these SMART goals that a lot of us have heard and updating them and establishing them and expanding them as they were written actually over 30 years ago. And then creating and implementing a focus week. This is something I am extremely passionate about, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. That's another reason why I added it to today's talk. And then the last 2 is having only 3 focused success areas. I believe that when we narrow in on exactly how we're going to define success, we can create momentum there, and then prioritizing you over all else, which kind of goes back to the discussion of self-care. So let's jump into the roadmap. Having the ideal roadmap. What does that mean? So for me, creating and formulating a leader mindset. So I've had people before say, well, I don't lead people, so I'm not a leader. Well, I know probably many of you are shaking your head thinking, well, that doesn't make you a leader. In fact, just because you lead people, you could be a bad leader. You could be all sorts of types of leader, right? And so leader is, I mean, if you have friends, if you have kids, if you have people that you hang around with that you influence, right? We all know kind of that we are leaders. I don't know that we all think about the areas that we're leading or having people impacted by us, but we are. And so when we take control over that thought process and that ability and look at it through that lens, are we really being intentional about the leadership that we're rubbing off on people, that we're spreading to the people that are around us? And so a couple thoughts on that. One is taking ownership. What does it mean to really own your situation? For me, it's not being afraid. It's not being ashamed to talk about the position you're in. own where you're at right now. I told you the story in the beginning of this. Hopefully, I don't think it came across in an ashamed or afraid way. I want you to know. I want people to know. I want you to know the position I'm in because it's true. And when I can get truth and ownership across to the other side of the table, we can have a more authentic and genuine conversation. Know how you landed there. That's also that ownership piece, and fully explore and understand and feel confident in the position that you're in. I think confidence says quite a bit to people. So being a leader is taking ownership, being in this experimental mindset. Man, I can't tell you how many times I've worked with people or talked to different leaders that said, oh, yeah. We've tried that before. It didn't work. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, how long did you try it? Well, we tried it for like a week and it didn't work. What are you talking about? Tried it for a week? Trying anything for a week is not necessarily going to give you any type of consistent information to understand if it works. Being a leader and being intentional leader is trying new things, experimenting new ideas for a long period of time, and then looking at the results of it and understanding that. And deciding then if you need to make a change, and then challenge the traditional thinking. This kind of goes along with my mindset of a good, better, best mentality. Oftentimes I think that when we look at doing anything and we want to be intentional in it, we're like, well, this is how I've always done it. This is the good way to do it. In fact, you know what? I'm going to do this one extra thing to make it better. So it's good. Okay, I'm doing a little bit better. But if we're intentional about the activities and actions that we're taking, how can we make them the best? And then I love this concept of slowing down to speed up. I think great leaders that are intentional about where they want to go, they give space and they give time to slow down in order to really see the impact of that down the road. I actually call this the hustle fallacy. I think we live in a society today where being busy, having a lot to do, telling people about how busy we are is some kind of currency. And I just don't believe in that. I don't believe that we have to be busy or convince people that we're busy in order for us to feel that they value us. And so it's funny because I don't know about you, but there's often times where people will ask me, and this is something that's been on my brain for years now, and something that I've tried to get rid of myself of, and I'm pretty close. But when people ask me, hey, Dan, how's it going? How are you doing? How are things just happening in your life? I think my knee-jerk reaction, and maybe you even think this too, is to say, I'm busy. And so many of us say that. And so I've been intentional to say, well, you might be sorry that you asked that. Let's talk about some of the projects and things that are going on in my life and some of the areas that I am putting dedicated time to. So where are you unconsciously staying busy and not staying focused, or where you could pull back a little bit and slow down to get better results? And then lastly, accountability practices. This is an area that is a strength of mine as well. I believe that anything that we want to get traction on and move forward on, we've got to have some kind of accountability marker. It's got to happen automatically. It's got to be something that we do all the time. And whether that's with someone or with yourself, it's got to be something that has to be intentional in order to be a great leader and to lead ourselves through any situation. So if it's consistent, positive, motivational, those are the accountability components that we want to have in place. For me, I sit down every Monday morning. I look at all of my activities for the previous week. I have a document that I fill out for all that. And that works great for me. I know there's other people that have actually accountability groups that they get together and they get together on a consistent basis, and they're actually having to vocalize to one another. And I think that's great too. It just, whatever works for you, there's got to be some kind of consistency to that. How are we tracking so far? I'm going to pause there because I feel like I've been talking for a little while and didn't give anyone an opportunity to say anything. So any questions, thoughts, or anything to add here?
Hey, Dan, this is David Jaramillo. I love the idea of that slow down to speed up. I think we all fall into that trap. I certainly have been guilty of that a lot of times. The old adage, stop and smell the roses type of thing. I think definitely is something I need to be more conscious of. So I appreciate you highlighting that.
Yeah,
oh, that's awesome. Thank
especially
you.
for job seekers too, where I think, and I know Michael and all the other recruiters on the call, we see this where it's like this spray and pray method, and they're taking action. It's messy action, but maybe taking that time to pull back and set some goals, ask for some help, get that accountability partner is so powerful. And I really love how you're meshing, leadership voice, leadership authority as a pathway to get you through any situation, which is a job search situation. So excellent job so far. I'm loving it.
Awesome.
Hey, Dan, this is Alma Renaz.
Hey, Alma.
Hi, I just want to say that this is really, really, really helpful and I'm loving it. And I wanted to know if now or perhaps at the end of your presentation, you could talk a little bit more about the accountability practices, any tips or advice you have about having those groups, because it's one thing to work like with a career coach or one particular person, but just creating like that group of people who might in a sense be like in the same boat as you. If you could just talk to us a little bit more about that, about the accountability groups.
Yeah, I think it would be, we could definitely talk about that. Why don't we talk a little bit more about that at the end? Because I bet there's a whole slew of folks in here that have some thoughts on that too. And I have some too, Alma. So if that's okay, if we can wait at the end and we'll dive back in that. So remind me if I forget, will you please?
Of course. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. All right. Well, let's keep moving forward here. So the next one is we talked about having creating and implementing a focused week. So this is, again, an area, all these areas are where I'm really passionate about. This is something that I've been doing for years, that getting a little bit of feedback. If you might not be muted.
Put yourself on mute, please. We got an iPhone that's...
Oh, we might have gotten it. It might have been inside of a pocket. I've noticed that sometimes. That's okay. All right. Okay. So focused week, creating and implementing this. I will share with you that this is probably one of those areas where I talk to people about and they say, man, I don't know how you do that. I don't know if I can do that. And so I would tell you that a couple thoughts on that. One, I have a plan. I have an ideal weekly schedule. The key word there being ideal, right? Oftentimes it doesn't happen. As I shared with you earlier, I have 3 children under the age of 9. So oftentimes my week does not go exactly how I want it to go. I'm sure you can imagine.
Never heard of that.
But having intentionality and having that intentional leadership focus is creating a plan, being okay to deviate from the plan when things happen. That's something that I've had to learn because I can be very much like, it didn't go exactly the way I wanted it. Now forget the rest of the day, but just throw the rest of the day away, right? And so I've had to work on that, and having kids has actually helped me with that. But having a focused, intentional week, and I'm going to share with you what I do with this. But creating structure and what you allow. We talked a little bit about this earlier, is what are you unconsciously saying yes to? And so what I mean by that is we are bombarded every single day, every single hour by a whole slew of businesses that want our attention, right? Can we agree to that? We have notifications constantly coming up from everywhere. We have friends or family that are calling or texting us. And so those are just 2, but there's tons, right? There's tons of things that are constantly being pinged to us that are drawing our attention. And so I would ask you, what is pulling you away from having a focused week? If I were to tell you right now, hey, I need you to do nothing but focus on this project, this part of this project for the next 2 hours, what are some of the things that you think are going to interrupt you, right? So think through that. And I'll give you some of the things that I do. On my cell phone, I have 0, not 1 or 2. I have 0 notifications that come through on my phone. None. I know for me that if there's a little red bubble with a number inside of it, I got to clear it. I have to clear it. If you're like my wife, where your email could say that you have 12,000 unread emails and it doesn't bother you at all, then maybe that's not an issue for you. But for me, if there's just 1, I've got to clear that sucker, or it's just going to drive me insane. And so I have all the notifications on my phone turned off. When I want to look at social media, I look at social media, not when it tells me to look at social media. Remember, it's their job to get your attention, and they are very, very good at it. Very good at it. So think about, what are you unconsciously saying yes to? Again, I told you I have 3 kids. I have an office here that you can't see, that are double doors, and the doors have windows on them, so they can see me in here.
Okay.
Right? And so they're like, oh, dad's just sitting there. I bet I can go talk to him. No, in fact, I was trying to concentrate on creating something, and now I love you and I want to be around you, but now you've just broken that concentration, right? And so oftentimes I'm telling my wife that these are the days, and she knows now, Wednesdays and Thursdays are my focused project days. And so oftentimes she leaves the house. Like today, she's been gone all day over at the swimming at my parents' house, like I said earlier, because she knows this is the day that I do a lot of project work. So what are you unconsciously saying yes to because it's drawing your attention? I want you to think about that. Themed days. And so I just talked a little bit about that. Is for me, Wednesdays and Thursdays are my focused project times. I don't schedule any meetings on those 2 days, or I try not to. At least there's some exceptions. Today's a Thursday and I'm having this meeting. It's actually at the end of the day though, so it works out well with my normal times. But if you want to schedule time with me, and some of you actually have on this call, when you go through my Calendly link, which I'm going to share a little bit about that later as one of my tech tools, the only 2 options are Tuesdays and Friday. Those are the only 2 days that I do meetings on. And so when people go and schedule time with me, those are the only 2 days. So I have meeting days on Tuesdays and Fridays, focused project time, or some people call that deep work, on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And Monday, actually my wife works. And so I'm with all the kids that day. So I'm being solo dad all day. And so I just kind of do whatever I can when I can. And I don't really put a lot of structure behind a Monday because 3 kids again. And then lastly here, being busy doesn't matter. Do more of the right things. So we talked about this a little bit earlier, this idea that we've got to constantly be busy, busy, busy. We can all stay busy all day long. There's no doubt about that. We've got tons of things to do. But if I were to tell you, parse out the most important things from that list, and I actually just released a new series today in LinkedIn for my Propel series, an acronym, Propel. The first 2 are prioritize and rank. So they talk about list all the things you need to do, because when you actually list them, it actually gives you control over them. And now we're going to pull out, we're going to rank what needs to get done, and then actually identify the 3 that need to get done for the day. But that's, again, another topic, another time. All right, I'm going to progress us forward here. Maybe I should go back here and say, any thoughts, ideas, comments on this piece? I nailed
Okay,
it that
so
well.
Dan, go ahead.
No, I was making a joke. Please go ahead.
Okay, so sometimes, even when I try to make a focus week, I want to hear your thoughts on this thing, that doesn't it get too monotonous or boring, if you follow the same routine again and again, something like that?
So the question is, does it get monotonous or maybe boring if you're having the same routine?
Yeah, so does it get for you? And then if yes, like, what's the solution?
It actually does not get boring for me, because I'm not meeting with the same people all the time. So that's one thing that's constantly being changed. And so I'm having fresh conversations and new ideas and new thoughts. And then the same thing on my focus project days. Again, when I go into this more in detail, I talk about really what that focus project time is for. And so it's for a number of things. It's for, it could be content writing, which is going to be new every week. It's going to be different ideas, different thoughts that I had for the previous week. It could be reading. So I'm progressing through some kind of professional development that I have. And I actually set aside time within that focus project time to read every week, because otherwise I won't actually do it. And so there's always, and then also, how we're bombarded all the time with different emails, different podcasts, different great information, and oftentimes we either delete it. If you're my wife, you just keep it forever. Oh, don't let me go down that path. And then, or what I do is that I actually, as soon as those things come in, I actually tag them to a folder in my Gmail that's for articles to read later. And so I have time during my focus project time on Wednesdays and Thursday to actually go through that folder. So I give space to actually go through some of that stuff that at some point in time I signed up to receive, and I saw value in it at some time. And in the moment, I may not be able to read it, or I may not actually read it well. You know how we skim through things. But I actually want to give time and space to things that are important to me. And so professional development is important to me, which is why I put it in that time. So for me, to answer your question, it doesn't get boring because it's always something different. I actually like that consistency, because when people ask me, hey, Dan, I'd love to meet with you, I'm not saying, well, I don't know about next week. No, I say Tuesdays and Fridays are the days I meet with people. So I'd love you to find a time on your calendar, Tuesdays or Fridays at work. And there are occasions, again, that I deviate from that, but it's a conscious deviation, right? I am saying it's okay. I'm having that conversation and saying, yes, I'm willing to make this change. So instead of people just directing my week.
I think that's awesome. I personally have noticed, as I've gotten into Career BFF full time, that if I have a lot of calls, some are networking calls, and then I do coaching calls, it's like my brain has trouble switching gears. So I'm moving towards like having exclusive coaching days and then having exclusive networking days, because I feel like there's a different energy and a different vibe that comes with those two conversations. And so that's something to think about for job seekers or, other people, other entrepreneurs, like those activities, how are you aware of how easy or how difficult it is to switch gears?
Yeah, and I won't go into all this, but there was a recent research that I read. It was out of California. I think it was maybe out of Berkeley. It doesn't matter, but well, it does matter, I guess, if I'm going to reference it. But they were talking about humans are not designed to actually multitask. It goes back to this idea of this hustle fallacy that we were talking about earlier, right? We're actually not designed to do it. We can do it; it's possible, but we don't end up doing any of those things well. We do them mediocre at best, right? And actually, the study was talking about that, along with the actual amount of mental capacity and time that it takes to actually get back to that level of thinking that you were in before you were distracted. Yeah. And it's something ridiculous. It's like something like 20 minutes it takes your brain to fully be back into that space that it was before you were distracted. Right?
Those ADD kids, it could be 2 hours. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Dan, can I jump in and ask a question about this?
Sure.
So I've been doing some research about why it's better to set systems and not goals. Is this presentation, is all of this wonderful hot information that you're giving us an example of how to set a system?
Yes. So I think part of it is creating a system. I would never press upon somebody and say, you need to use my system. For me, these are ideas of how to create a system. This works for me. By no means does that mean that it's going to work for you. However, I believe that the concepts can work for anyone. It just depends on how it actually makes sense for you. And I don't mean that like, well, Dan does his meeting days on Tuesdays and Fridays. And so I'm just going to do mine on 2 different days. That's not what I mean by implementing what makes sense for you. I believe that you need to, if you don't have a lot of meetings, you don't need meeting days. but what I would, and so again, that's part of another part of a training that we actually go through and list all the things that you do in a given week. And we find commonalities. Okay, what's the bigger buckets? Now let's actually create some clarity around where those buckets would fit into a week, and give space for that. And so the idea is, yeah, there are parts of this that there's a system, but there's not a prescribed system that I would say you've got to follow these steps. They're just concepts to consider into how you set up your week in this particular case. Does that answer your question?
Oh, for sure. And I definitely didn't want to imply that you were like telling us you have to do things this way. It just seems really relevant to me that you're giving us an example of a system that works for you. It's almost like you're giving us your recipe and we get to modify the recipe that best fits for us. But, you know, in the end, the recipe is going to be unique to each individual person.
100%. Yeah. And there's some people that align with exactly the way my kind of brain thinks. And so their recipe is a lot closer to what mine is, but there's still going to be changes, right? There's still going to be deviations. Michael, you had your hand up. I don't know if you had anything to add there before we move on.
No, I was just admitting I have ADD.
Oh, okay.
Because I know exactly, you know, and that's where, so when I look, like when we were talking about this initially, and I look at that, you know, brain scatters going, holy crap, what do I do? How do I reel all this in? Because, you know, when you're running your own show, as you are well experiencing, and I know Anna knows, and I know that it's, you have to stay focused. And so I think these methods that you're talking about are just home runs, and
Thank you.
definitely will be put into place after this call. Well, starting tomorrow. How about that? Or give me till Monday. Go on, sir.
Fair enough. That's great. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
Sure, my pleasure.
All right, so we're going to take a step out of this intentional leadership section and now go into some efficiencies and tech tools that I actually use. And so I hope this is fun and exciting and interesting, and I have some examples to share. So we'll jump right in. So creating efficiencies. So these are my best practices. Again, what I said earlier, these are things that I do every single week, if not every day. And so many of you may have already be doing some of these things and then some, and I have a ton of and then somes. This is just the kind of the top that I use more often than not. So the first one is email templates. I actually have a reminder every week to remind myself, or I think it's every 2 weeks actually, to say, are there any additional templates that I need to create? If I'm going to send an email more than a few times, I'm going to create a template. And I want to show you what actually looks like. So we'll jump over to this email template section. This is actually a screenshot of my templated section that I took yesterday. So it was timely and relevant for today. So I don't know if you had, this is out of Gmail. If you have a different email tool, I'm sure there's a templated section. I'm sure it's in there somewhere, but this is Gmail. So right at the bottom, you see the little 3 buttons at the bottom. You go to templates, and then you can see the 2, 4, 6, 7 templates that I have right there. These are templates that I don't ever have to write again, but I often get them. I often need to send them. And so the great thing about this is that I have written them once, and I had put time and energy and thought and passion into that response, to where I just need to make a few tweaks when I'm going to send it to somebody else or send it to the next person, and they get a thoughtful, passionate, interesting response from me, right? That's not this kind of generic thanks or whatever it is. And I think this is applicable to the job search, because some of these in here are job search specific. The first one is Bom Bom. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Appointment today. So this is actually an appointment email that I send, that I actually set up every Sunday for all of my meetings on Tuesdays and Fridays. So I set them up on Sunday, and I schedule them to be sent out Tuesday morning and Friday morning for the people that I'm meeting that day. And it says, hey, we have an appointment today. And it's actually a video of me. I'm going to show you how to do that. But it's actually a video of me saying, hey, we have an appointment today. I'm so excited to connect with you. They get it like at 8 o'clock in the morning. They think I sent it at 8 o'clock in the morning. I didn't. I actually scheduled it on Sunday. But I don't have to rewrite that one. I pop that up and I put the people that I'm meeting with in the blind copy field, and I hit send later on Tuesday, and I don't think about it again. It's funny too, because then when I get on those actual calls on Tuesday, people are like, man, I love that email you sent me this morning. I'm like, oh yeah, great. I'm glad you liked it. Next up is summer intern. So I was actually working with some interns this summer. And so I had a different project to put together. And so I put together the email for them. Sorry, I missed you. I mean, that's just, if people no-show me on appointments, I actually have a thing there that says, oh, it must be my fault. And I have a video again. I'd love for you to reschedule. Okay. And so the next two are pretty interesting. And these are things that I think is a differentiator in the job search. So a denial thank you. So often, I'm sure if you're in job search, you get the denial emails from companies that you've applied to that say, hey, thanks, but no thanks. I actually respond to that email when I can. Sometimes it's a no reply, but when I can, with an email and a video with Bom Bom. I'm going to show you that in a minute, but a video that actually says, hey, thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate the time to get to know you, get to know the company, and apply for the position. I know that it's a struggle in hiring, and so I just appreciate the consideration. If there's future opportunities down the road, I hope that we can run back into each other. That leaves an impression on people that you wouldn't believe. And again, right now I'm in career transition, and so I'm looking for that next opportunity, and that's what I'm all about right now. I'm about meeting new people, chatting with new folks, and then leaving an impression, right? And so that's the focus I'm in. And then the other one I have on here is response to confirmation emails. So, when you apply to something, you get an email that says, hey, thanks so much for applying. I have a similar kind of response. So again, it's all templated. I don't have to think about it. I can just send it. That's what I do with email templates. If you're not using email templates, think about, are there emails that I send every week? What if I were to sit down and actually write that out really well and make it sound really good and save it as a template? So that way, every time I have to send that one, it sends that really well-written piece, okay? Second one here is, and we won't spend that much time on all these, but Todoist is just an app that you can, has a mobile side. It's an app on the computer. It's basically saves me. It's a to-do list where you can actually put just simple things in there and future them out. And then you can put recurring pieces in there. When I said earlier that I have a recurring note every 2 weeks to tell me to update any new email templates, it's in Todoist. So it's an app that pops up and you can just schedule things out. And I used to do this actually in my calendar rather. I put reminders on my calendar for myself, and that became too cumbersome. And so Todoist does that, and it's a pretty cheap option. Brain Toss, man, I'll tell you what, I love this app. It's for the phone. It's like $2. It's an app that you download, and I think I probably use it every day. I can tell you I've already used it twice today, if not 3 times. Basically, you open the app. It's real simple. I wish I would have thought of it. You open the app, and there's 3 options: talk into the phone, send yourself a note, or take a picture. If you do the talk, you just hit the talk button and you just talk into your phone, and then you hit send and it just sends it to your email. Now, for people that you do the same thing with a picture, like, oh, I want to remember that. I take a picture of it, just hit the button, send, and it sends it to my email. For people that operate their email like a to-do list, like I do, that works really well, right? Like literally right now, there's 1 email in my inbox probably. And so some of you are like, well, that's crazy. I don't think about it that way. That would never make, so that's not a tool for you, but it works for me because again, I use my inbox.
15,000 emails bother you, Dan?
No.
What was that? Okay. Whoa. Time. What was that?
Dan just had a mini heart attack.
That was for you. That was on purpose. All right. Keyboard shortcuts. Okay. This is another thing. If you are not using keyboard shortcuts, let me try to convince you.
Okay.
It is just a time saver to be efficient. Again, remember, we're talking about being efficient here. So I'll give you, this is right out of my computer again yesterday, so it's timely. What you see in the left-hand column here is all I have to type to then get all the stuff on the right-hand column. No matter what I'm in, no matter what application I'm in, if I'm in an email, if I'm on a Zoom call, if I'm on anything, I've highlighted the one there that says HTTPS. When I type in HTTPS, my whole LinkedIn profile link pops up. So when I'm like on a Zoom call and they're like, oh, put your LinkedIn information on the chat, I don't have to go look for it. I just type in HTTPS in the chat and hit enter, and the thing pops in there. Right? And so here's a funny one. Right below it, you see no bit. So I get about 50 to 100 new messages a day on LinkedIn. Okay. And a portion of those, albeit sometimes small, but still every day, I get people that want me to become a Bitcoin cryptocurrency miner, right? I don't know. I don't look like a miner. I don't think I do. I'm not doing that, right? I'm not interested. And so I was like, man, at first I was just ignoring them. And I was like, that's not really who I want to be, even though I could be. Let me actually just tell them so they'll stop leaving me alone. So I created this like, hey, you can see the first part of it there. It says, thank you for your connection. With all due respect, I have no interest in doing this, but thanks for connecting with me, kind of thing. So all I have to type in there is NOBIT, and then it pops in that whole message for me. The other thing that I use literally every day is a couple, is right above that is that HTC. So when I have new connections, all I type in the message box of my new connections is HTC, and it pops out this 3 to 4 sentence message. That's happy to connect, by the way. That's how I remember it. You can make these whatever you want, right? Happy to connect, and then it pops out, and actually I have a link in there that actually puts in my video. So if any of you have connected with me and gotten my thanks for connecting with me video, that's how I do it. I just type in HTC and it pops in that deal. So keyboard shortcuts is where it's at. I use it all the time. You can see like the number there, that's my address. And so I don't have to type out my whole address every time, right? I type in the numbers and then boom, it pops in. So check that out. Again, efficiency tool. And then Emoji Wiki.
Wait. How do you do that? How do you create those?
Oh, well, if you have a Mac, I could tell you I do it on a Mac.
No, I have.
Okay, well then here's what I would tell you.
Yes, we want to know how to do it on
I
a
was
Mac.
like, and then it goes into emojis. I'm like, wait.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think, well,
Really good. And now I'm just.
Well, step one would be to get a Mac.
That's right.
No,
That's right.
I just bought an HP
here's
thingamajiggy.
here's what I would say. I bet Dan is a can you maybe, I'll see if I can Google something before the hour's up on how to, is it loading shortcuts on a PC? Is that what I do?
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah. Well, I can tell you that you want to look for your
video for us and send it out.
Keyboard shortcuts?
Yeah, keyboard shortcut is what you want to look for. I know on a Mac, all you do is hit Command Spacebar because that's your search tool for your computer, and then you just type in keyboard, and it'll pull it up, and it's under text on that window.
Michael,
Okay.
it may be something on Windows, on the Windows platform. So I don't think it's laptop specific. It'll just be something within Windows 10 or something like that. So that's probably what I'd look for.
I found it.
And
probably-
is there a cross functionality? Can that
Between-
like tie into your smartphone?
Yes, it actually does. It does the same thing on my phone. So all these that I have on my Mac, I can do them on my phone too, and they work just the same.
But
Wow.
did you have to program them into
No.
your phone
No,
separately?
because it's a whole ecosystem, right? Mac creates that whole ecosystem of everything's connected, and so it all
Okay.
transfers.
Ooh, okay. Thanks,
And-
Dan.
Hence get a Mac.
Yeah, I see some, I just Googled and I see something that says how to create keyboard shortcuts in Windows 10.
Yeah,
All right,
I found the
I'm
same
with
thing.
you. Windows 10.
It should be pretty simple. It's just in your settings tab, and then you can create just an infinite amount of them. You just have to remember what you're replacing, what the little term is that you're using. Right?
Okay.
And then once you start doing, and then for me, again, it's experimental, right? I just force myself to use them. And so that way, then I get used to using them.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to jump forward so quickly. Are we okay?
No, you're okay. We're just teasing you. It was really good.
No. The last two here are this Emoji Wiki and the top listed hashtag. So this is really for people that are posting on social media. This is, again, I use this Emoji Wiki. You can just look this up, any type of Emoji Wiki. If you're like, man, I want to put emojis on what I'm sending, and I know on social media that actually works well. Some of you may be like, I don't want anything to do with that. That's fine. But I post every day on social media, and I'm often using different things. Again, it attracts a larger audience of folks. And so you can actually find those wikis that you can search for different emojis. And so that way you're not having to try to figure it out on your keyboard. Again, it's just a time saver. And then top listed hashtags, you can actually Google search what are the most commonly used hashtags. Anna, I think you actually shared this with me or told me about this, or at least got me down the path of thinking about it. If you're doing any type of social media posting and you're just like hashtagging everything, first of all, that's a mistake. Secondly, you want to hashtag where the big players are. Like I have this piece of paper in front of me with a bunch of different information. One of them has 15 of the highest populated hashtags, right? And so when I'm posting content, I'm using those hashtags. Again, it's going to catch a broader audience. So know what those are so you can use them. I'll tell you the first three are innovation, management, and digital marketing. Those are the top 3 hashtags for 2020 so far.
Interesting.
All right, we're going to move forward then in technology tools. And I've got quite a bit here. I know we're running close on time. So I will try to be quick, but this is probably my favorite area. A lot of cool things here. So tech tools, I'll go quickly. Like I said, they can be fun. They can also be very time consuming. So be smart about it. Invest in your technology tools. I've talked to people before. They're like, oh, I'm in career search right now. I can't afford to pay for some of these things. I would tell you to, I understand that. I totally get that. I would tell you to put a budget behind some tools to use and then stay within that budget. But to have a budget of 0 isn't realistic. At least if you're trying to really be staying up with what's going on and catch the eye of people that you're trying to catch the eye of. And so invest in that. And I have some additional thoughts there if anyone wants to chat about how to do that well. And actually ask for discounts. I've done that before too. And it says, hey, I'm a job searcher. Do you offer any discounts? And I've had a handful of organizations like, yeah, we do. Here you go. Here's 30% off, which
Nice.
again, if you don't ask, you don't know. The worst case scenario, they say, no, we don't. I was like, okay, thanks for letting me know. And then, are you willing to do the front end work to get the lasting benefit, to be experimental? Where are your limiting beliefs? I could talk probably 30 minutes just about limiting beliefs. I won't right now. But one of my limiting beliefs was that I could not create video for years. I'm like, there's just no way I can figure this out. This was like a month or 2 ago. I said, I'm tired of thinking that I can't do that. I sat down for 3 days and figured out how to create videos. And so it just took me the time to do it. So, okay. The first tool I want to talk about is Bom Bom. This is mind blowing. Okay. If I could only tell you about one tool, it would be this. It would be Bom Bom. I found this out several months ago. This is an incredible tool that allows you to do video directly in email. So when people get your email, there's you in the email. It's not an attachment. It's not, they have to click a link. They do have to click on the actual video that they see, but they're not having to wondering what the attachment. They literally see you, and it also has a preview, which is why I like it. It's the first 3 seconds of the video that you create. There's a preview of you doing whatever you're doing. And so I'm real intentional on those where I'm like waving, right? And so they get an email from me that they open up. It's like they would any other email. And instead of there being text there's a video there with me waving at them, usually with a sign that has their name on it. You can ask Anna and Michael this. They've seen this firsthand. I've sent it to them and I've used it with them. I send more video email every day than I do regular email. Why? It saves me time. It's way easier and it's fun. I don't have to sit there and think about how I'm going to type an email. I can just respond with a video. And I can tell you the response I get from it is ridiculous. People are not just like, oh my gosh, that's a cool video. They're like, holy smokes, who are you and where did you come from and how the heck did you do that?
It's not that expensive. It's not that expensive.
It's not that expensive at all. I have been talking about it so much that they actually gave me an affiliate link, which is kind of cool. So if anyone's interested in this, let me know. And I'd love to give you the link. I get a little bit of a kickback that actually helps pay for my subscription every month, which is cool.
Send it to me, Dan.
Okay, definitely will. And you know what's funny is that, I can't access the chat right now, but I would put it, I have a, I don't know if you saw it earlier, but I have a keyboard shortcut for my affiliate link, right? I type in BBAFF and boom, the link's there. I'll send that to you in a little bit. So that's Bom Bom. Again, I'm trying to go fast. This is just an incredible tool. And I use it, I'm not joking, 5 to 10 times a day. And it's just an incredible tool. They also have a screen sharing tool. It's really cool.
I got a question here. Aditi's asking, does it eat a lot of space? So
No.
Can email servers reject it if it's kind of considered too big?
I've been using it for 5 months, I want to say, and I've never had that issue.
Okay. Good question, Aditi.
Yeah, good question. And their customer service is like ridiculously awesome. They're great. Okay, next is Calendly. If you're not using Calendly, start. This is just, I don't know why I wasn't doing this. I just started doing this like in the last 10 months, maybe. I wish I was doing it like the last 10 years. I mean, we all have been in that position where we're like, hey, when do you want to meet? I have these 3 days. Oh, when do you want to meet? I can't do those, and you go back and forth for 4, 5, 10 emails until you figure it out. Calendly just removes all that. So you send them a link and you can even go and you see at the top right here, I kind of have my 2 meetings that I have set up, and then you can set up a lot of different types of meetings. I have one for new connections. Again, this is only a Tuesday and Friday deal. And then I have this one that's more available, but I only send it out to people that may be close friends or things like that. And then there's options to actually how you want to set up your meetings. So you can tell them, you can customize this. Like you can put it on only Tuesdays and Fridays, or you can make it for only a certain amount of time, or you can put maxes of meetings a day. Calendly is such an incredible tool, time saving, really cheap tool. Also, they have a free version as well. So Calendly, this is another cool tool that I've just started using in the last couple months. If you're doing any type of video work, Subtitle is really cool. This will actually caption all your videos for you. It extracts the audio and automatically puts the captioning in for you. There is some work you have to do. If you're not doing video work, then don't worry about this. If you are doing any type of video work, know that 70% of the people will not listen to your content. They will want to read it. So if there's no captions, they're not going to get your content. Again, that's only for people that are doing video, but a great
Dan,
tool.
can I ask a question about that Subtitle?
Yep.
Have you ever tried using it with just audio, where you're just recording audio and not video?
I have not uploaded an audio file, but it's an option.
Okay. All right.
You can do that. And then you could just put a picture on instead of the video, right? You could put your you could upload any type of picture.
I create videos that's how I do it. I record the audio and then I have to turn them into videos. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, you'd probably create the video first and then upload the video, and it'll extract the audio and it'll give you a final output.
Oh.
So
does that have a free version or is it only paid?
There's not a free version, but it's a pretty cheap option. That was one of the companies that actually I reached out to them and they gave me a 30% off deal. I want to say it's like $13 a month for, I don't know what they give you, like 20 videos or something for $13. It's pretty cheap.
Okay.
Next up is Enhance V. This is I love this. This is, you can see over here, I've used it. It's what I call my non-traditional resume. ATS systems don't like this. I'm not suggesting that you use it. I actually use this non-traditional resume when I'm already connected with the company, or I just want to show them a different version of who I am, or it's maybe like a startup environment or a more tech type of organization where they would actually maybe value a different view like this, right? This Enhance V gives you a template to create what I have showing you here. I also use this for a speaking bio that I've created. I don't have that here, but they actually have cover letters in there. And so it just makes it look a little bit unique and different, and that you've really put time and effort into it. And they make it really easy for you to create these things. Prezi, that's what I'm using to give this presentation. What do you guys think of this presentation so far?
It's great.
I have Windows.
Super. Prezi's great.
Prezi's way cool.
Isn't it an Apple product? Isn't it an Apple?
No, it's a
web platform.
Web platform. Thank you.
Right. Don't shake your head at me, Alma. I saw that.
I don't.
David always has like the right terms for things.
This is the only way I do presentations. They make it super easy, and you guys see what it's like.
You got about 4 minutes, Dan.
Okay. Infographia, Graphia rather. This is a great visual aids. These are the ones that I've created off of their site. Very little editing. And this, if you're posting on social media, these types of posts get really high engagement.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a tool that you can use. There's lots of them out there. I will mention real quickly, so it's not that I just jumped in each one of these tools. I'm a researcher. I like to think through and test things. And so I have tested a ton of them before I landed on all these tools. So I've taken on some of the guesswork out of it. So I would tell you to test it. If you don't like it, go find a competitor of it. But I've done that already. And these are the ones that I like. And then email signature. If you don't have a professional email signature, you need to figure that out immediately. Do not send another email until you have a professional email signature. I found a guy on Fiverr for $15. He created this thing for me. I mean, it's worth it.
Cool.
And that schedule a meeting link there goes right to my Calendly. He set that up for me. My Facebook, LinkedIn, all goes there. He put all that stuff in for me. And all I had to do was copy and paste it into my email. And then bonuses, I added these actually this morning because I was thinking about it. Real quickly, Buffer, that is a tool that I'm currently testing and I like for social media scheduling. So you can actually put your social media posts in there and tell it, just put on autopilot, right? Again, so you could batch a lot of the work. You can just sit down on Monday and write all your content for the whole week and schedule it for every day of the week.
It's like Hootsuite, right?
Yep, just like Hootsuite. But Buffer is a little bit less expensive. It's like $15 a month. I like it.
You can use the
StreamYard.
free version though, can't you, for a bit?
Yeah, you can. It limits your they're just
The number of channels you can schedule.
Yep.
Those. Right.
Most of these tools have free versions. It's just a matter of what you need it for. And they're really good at giving you a free version that you like, that you really want the next thing up. They're really good at that. So I always look at the first paid plan because that's typically where I'm going to land anyways. The other ones I have on here is StreamYard. That's a nicer version of Zoom. Gives you just some different options. Boomerang is on the one on the right there. It's a really cool tool. It's a Gmail add-on. I love this tool. That's how I send future emails like I was talking about earlier. The other really cool tool about this is that you can pause your inbox. Every single day my inbox is paused. And I tell it, I tell Boomerang to dump email into my email at 8:30, 12:30, and 4:30 every day. So if you email me at 8:31, I'm not going to get it until 12:30.
Interesting.
This is another thing that we get pulled from, right? We see the little like unread email and we're like, oh, I bet that's a client, or I bet that's someone that wants to hire me. And so we jump over there and now we're distracted.
Yeah.
Boomerang you can just tell it when to dump email into your inbox. I love this tool. And then the last piece there is actually, I just wanted to add this on there. I actually have a Google Doc with my last couple positions on it, where I, when you're filling out job applications and it's like, tell me about your job duties there. And you're having to rewrite that every time, write it one time, save it in a Google Doc, and just copy and paste it every time you're filling out an application. Again, write it once, make it look really good, and then copy and paste. All right. And then I know Michael, you gave me some time, so we're out of time, but this is where you can find me. There's my email address. There's my current projects I'm working on, vocation wise, and then avocation, different projects that I have going on, and then speaking topics. So anyways, yeah, you've seen this Dan Urban Training Company logo up here. It's something that I just pulled out last week. And I'm going down the professional speaking route and trying to line things up there. And so that's all the things I got going on right now. And I'm sorry I ran over time. Thank you guys so much.
No, you're fine. Great job, man.
Dan, that was amazing. Great job.
Thank you, Dan. That's wonderful.
Absolutely. You guys test these tools out. I mean, I think, we bring our speakers on to help you. So definitely check out some of the tools you've mentioned. Dan, would you mind sharing if you send me the presentation, I'll upload it to the Google Drive. And then they'll also have the what's it called? The recording of the.
Yeah, no
Dan,
problem.
is there a way you can go back to that one slide real quick that had all the tools? I was kind of listing them out just for myself. I got
Sure.
Bom Bom, Prezi, Infographia, Subtitle, Buffer, StreamYard, Boomerang, but I think I missed a few.
Tell me,
Signature, enhance CV.
email signature, yeah, enhance V. And in this
Ow.
bonus area, I had, I think you got all these, but for Boomerang, StreamYard.
Gotcha.
Keep up, David. Jeez,
I know. I'm sorry.
No, that's cool.
Michael, do we still have time for questions?
3 minutes.
Michael has another live he has to do, guys and gals.
Oh, okay.
3 minutes. Go. Ask.
Oh, Dan, I wanted to know your thoughts on Canva, and if you've ever heard of an app called Serene.
Oh,
You guys,
no, we
could you
lost
mute
it.
yourself?
You
Mute
said
yourself.
Canva, and what was the other?
Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on Canva, because I see you do create some graphic assets,
Mhm.
and also if you've ever heard of an app called Serene.
I don't know anything about Serene, so I can't comment on that. But Canva, I'll tell you this. So I am not. I'll give you
Hey,
the.
Marla, can you mute your phone, please?
Marla, I think we're getting a lot of your feedback.
Thank you.
I just muted her.
So I'll give you the condensed version here. Again, doing more of the right things versus more things, right? I know that I could sit down and figure out graphic design. I know I could Canva probably makes it super easy. I know a lot about it. In fact, I've looked into it. That's just an area that I'm not willing to devote the time right now. And so I use services like Fiverr and Upwork to find people that are way better at that than me and can create a much better output in less time for me. And that's the space I'm in now. And I actually been using a couple of the last couple of weeks because I've been working on this training stuff, and not for this presentation, but other handouts that I actually want to create. And so I went through them to create them. Again, I know that costs money and some people, but again, that's part of my budget that I've set aside, that it's actually giving me time to do the things that I'm really good at and really that I enjoy doing and really proficient at. Right. And so that's why I haven't done anything in Canva, but I know a lot of people do. I just want someone that actually can do it way faster than me and better in that particular area.
Thanks, Dan.
Anybody else?
There was and then you had a question too that we didn't, that we said that we wait till the end, but I don't remember what it was now.
It was the accountability, this accountability group or.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, yeah, but we might not have time to talk about it right now.
I bet you could use Dan's really cool Calendly link and meet up.
Oh yeah, don't worry about that, Anna. I've already sent him my Calendly link. So yeah.
I love it. I love
That's
it.
awesome.
But
Thank you.
other people might also want to know, or maybe it could for the next week. You could just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have several thoughts on that. It's certainly not the ending response on that, or the be all, but some thoughts on that for sure.
Okay. All right. We'll pick that. I've written it down and we'll pick it back up next week.
Everybody schedule time with Dan.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Acknowledging you, Dan, because you were standing this whole time.
All right.
Those are Tuesdays and Fridays, my meeting days. I stay in the whole day.
I know, I'd asked you this, right?
Awesome job. Super, Dan. You gave us awesome information. We so appreciate you. And thank you very much. Great job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So, so before you guys all hang up here, so I do have a live event that's coming up at 5:30, so in 20 minutes. Excuse me. And talking with a gentleman named Andrew Guy, black male, lives up in Canada, and we're talking about race and how race is going to have an impact on employee engagement, talent attraction, hiring of more Black executives in the workplace. And if you're interested in the topic, really appreciate the support for you guys just to tune in. So it goes from about 5:30 to 6:15, 6:30. If you just want to kind of keep it as you're preparing dinner or hanging out. But this guy's a TEDx speaker, an author. He's pretty amazing guy. So
is it the same link for this meeting, Michael?
No. You'll go to my profile on LinkedIn, or you can go to YouTube and go to the Hiring Transformed and watch it there, or on Facebook. But if you just go to LinkedIn and you click on, go to my profile, click on all activities, click on post at 5:30, you'll see my mug and my guest on live. And be sure to comment, ask questions. This is going to be challenging for me because I've never really had one of these deep conversations about it, and I'm going to be asking.
That's such an important conversation to be having right now, and I definitely am going to hop on, and I will be supporting you, Michael. Thank you for letting us know, and I hope that everyone else can join.
I'm going to do it too, Michael, because I appreciate everything you're doing for us. We want to support you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Awesome.
So Anna, what are we doing next week? Oh, wait a minute.
Vacation mode. Can I go back to Key West?
If you want. So
we're going to talk about tracking.
Yeah, staying organized. So it's kind of it's like kind of a continuation. So Dan, I'd like for you to help kind of participate. Maybe the three of us jump on a quick call, but
sure.
So for my clients, I've put together this workbook that that will help you stay organized. And so I'm happy to share certain sections of that workbook with everybody. But we're going to talk about organization in the search because I think it's a big part of it. And while these were great topics, I think you could use this in your job search, what Dan talked about, and in everyday life. But for the job search, if you're not organized and you don't know who's what and what I've applied for and all that, you're in trouble. So stay tuned for that. And I hope everyone has a nice evening.
Yeah. See you next
Thank you, Anna. Thank you,
All right.
Michael.
Thanks
Bye,
everybody for
guys.
being here.
Thanks, Dan. Good job,
Bring
Dan.
a friend
Thank
next
you.
week.
I was late.
All right.
Thanks
See you
for
guys
being here,
soon.
Kathy.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Hey, Michael, just one thought before you leave. Are
Yes,
you
Dawn.
still there?
Yep.
Yeah, I was on a call last week, and it is out of California. It said South Asians in defense of Black and Black lives. And it was very interesting. I have my pros and cons for that.
Do you have a link of a recording of it or something?
It is, if I find it, I'll send it to you.
Cool. Yeah,
I will
please.
email it to you because that was live. It was a live one, and it is. They are human rights people out of California, and one is from the Silicon Valley. It was a very interesting aspect of it, but I look at it from they are immigrants that are here in the States, and I don't think they made comments which, if you look back at history and where they come from, what they're fighting against is and they think it is colonial. It is actually has been there, not colonial as the way everyone thinks about it. It has been there for generations in all aspects of life. It's a very interesting.
Yeah, just if you can't find it, just kind of send me some keywords
No,
so I can.
I'll do that. Because